do points off. So if they're not turning something in, I'm hunting them down and making them skip lunch or calling home or whatever. So I try to address the behavior. Yeah, and not have it be part of the grades.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
I will do that for my 7th grade, but my 8th grade plus at that point, they're plus kids. They're, you know, yeah, because they have to get ready for high school. So.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Good conversations going on. I jumped around. I could only get to groups for a certain amount of times, but I liked topic number 1 when we were talking about like how do you reach those kids, you know, empathetic. Group 1, I think I came in when you guys were talking about grouping and like grouping by ability. I think that's, if I'm not right, I think it might have been Kelly's group. I'm not sure. And group 2, or no, actually, so Kelly's group, you guys talked about modeling just makes it more approachable. Like it makes it more natural to students.
Yeah.
Maybe it's group 1, Dave's group. Were you guys maybe talking about grouping by ability? I think I got the group mixed
We
up.
had some discussion about it. Yeah.
So how do you guys feel? Is there anything you guys brought up? Anyone want to share anything about like, hey, how do you reach those lower end students and trust? Like, well, just, you know, the apathetic, like, you know, not motivated students, how do we get them in the game? And, you know, I think it's important to get them in the game because those are the students that can be disruptive and derail like any classroom, especially a modeling class, especially when you're trying to facilitate these discussions and student led. So, yeah.
So George, as I was saying to my group, it's like I don't have problems with the lower level kids. I have problems with specifically one kid at top who's like super bright, and he's the problem. So I you know, the lower level kids, they're into everything we're doing. It's that my side is the other side of the spectrum. So I just don't want that side to get ignored. The other side is great.
That's a good call.
I'm gonna throw Corinne under the bus because she has a very interesting. We had some good discussion about an approach that she's taking. So,
well, I was gonna say one thing that I try and do is I group kids by their grit score. So basically, how much can they persevere? And so my kids that always want to do everything and are the leaders, I put them all in the same group, and then they kind of have to challenge each other and fight for, you know, what they put on the board. And then my kids that sit back and do nothing and want other people to take over, I try and put them all together in a group. And then it kind of forces those kids to do something. And a lot of times a kid will step up and be like, okay, guys, we can do this. And sometimes they realize why they're in that group and they're like, oh crap, maybe I should do more stuff. And I mean, for some groups this really works, but you know, I was telling my group too that a lot of times I'm still mixing it up every few weeks because they get comfortable with, you know, those peers that are similar to them, and then they start not doing what they're supposed to do.
Did you say their grit score? Is that like an actual thing, or is it just kind of like your observations?
Yeah, if you Google grit, you know, I have my kids take a grit scale survey at the beginning of the school year and try and do it as honestly as they can. And, you know, it's pretty much just a number, but the number is usually pretty accurate. And basically it tells them how gritty they are or how much they persevere through stuff or not.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was very cool. So, yeah, you know, on John's question, I hate to say this, that's just not a problem I've experienced where the upper level kids, and I don't know if we managed to keep the work challenging or I just don't have any of those students that are so far above the other kids that they can't benefit from the work that we're doing. So does anybody else have experience with that?
Every once in a while I do. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's that they can't benefit. It's just that they choose not to. They don't.
That's what I say. I mean, this particular child is very smart, but talking, it's like blah 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 blah. Excuse me, and then I'll just get him to come back again. Oh, sorry, and he'll go right back to where he started. So it's a never-ending cycle, and it's in every class. It's not just mine.
Like he has a monologue? Is that what you're saying?
No, yeah, attention. He's like, he needs somebody affirmation
You need to
constantly.
tell him he's doing a good job and you're really smart and you know everything.
Yeah, he wants to talk about what's important to him. And so you can put him in any conversation at any time, and he will find a way to change everything. And today he wasn't there because he's suspended for other reasons, but the classes seem to flow better.
Yeah, does this normally happen in post-lab discussions?
Yeah, every job, labs, post labs, it's all about, and these parents don't get it. So I don't know. I just thought maybe someone had some wisdom, because that was my current issue that I'm dealing with.
I always think of it as like, these assignments, like labs or analysis questions, like it's like, what are we trying to get out of the assignment? And like, what's the most challenging question? So I guess I put it on them. It's like, hey, like, what are we like, if like, say we're doing a lab and we're collecting data, it's like, what's the relationship here? Like, you don't even do all the questions. Like, what's the relationship and why is this happening? Like, give them a more challenging, higher order question. And I put it in them, like, you need to talk about that at the whiteboard. Like, when we circle up in whiteboard, I need you to talk about that. And a lot of times, like, when I'm doing the whiteboard discussions, like, I don't usually sit down during the whiteboard discussion. A lot of times I'm walking around the room, just walking by students. Usually that student, I might usually just, like, if they're being disrupted during discussion, I'll be like, hey, I'm always, like, by those students' side, I'll walk over and just kind of, like, tell them, like, hey, maybe, let's table that for another time. But I try to tell them, like, hey, here's the major thing. Here's the most challenging question. All the other stuff, let them have all the beginning questions, and you take the more challenging question at the end.
Somebody mentioned last week to tell the kids that are talking a lot to have 4 kids talk before they talk again. I don't remember who that was, but that was good advice that I used this week.
How did that go?
Someone else did a mute button, but but
Love the mute button.
yeah.
What about 3 chips? Three chips you give them.
3 chips, you only get to talk 3 times. Yeah, that's a great idea too.
Yeah, I'll add, I tried something from the book today, and I was kind of surprised. I have a kid that's difficult. It's not that he talks so much. He does talk a lot, but he just blurts out things that are really kind of rude and disrespectful. And we had a girl was her birthday today, and right at the beginning of the class, he sort of shouts out, "Who cares? It's just a stupid birthday," or something like that. And normally, I would have let it go or moved on. And then sometimes, he's a kid that you pull aside and then end up disciplining or sending him to the social responsibility room or something like that. And I said, okay, let's circle up. And the other kids are basically saying, just send him out. And I said, well, he's part of our group, and we agreed that we were all going to work on this together. And we ended up getting to a point where he agreed that he would apologize to the class, and he was going to go take a 3-minute walk. And when he came back, he was going to participate and contribute productively. And if he didn't, he was going to be doing detention. And the other kids agreed, okay, that's all right. We're good with that. And by God, the rest of the class period, he was fine. It was like, okay, God, I can't believe this really worked that well, but it did. So maybe it's a one-time fluke, or maybe it's that kid, but by God, it worked.
Had you talked about it ahead of time, or you just randomly are like, we're going to circle up and do this?
No, exactly. I had not prepped the kids at all, So
Wow.
it was a kind of out of the blue.
I read this book and
pretty much.
Yeah.
We're gonna do an experiment.
It says this works, so let's find out.
Restorative work.
Interesting. David, kind of actually, while you're talking, I think a lot of people spent their time on grading.
Mm-hmm.
And here's one thing: is my new school is changing to standard-based grading next year. I've worked at 3 total schools, and anytime grading gets brought up in faculty meetings, it gets hostile pretty fast. So I guess when people are talking tonight, just know that, this is just opinions, and where no one has, it's all opinions. Please don't take anything personally. I think we all got great ideas. But I also think it's important to consider, it's like when I changed schools last year, any grading philosophy, I have to change at any school I work. What works at one school doesn't work at another school. And we all work in different communities for various reasons. Grading, I don't think it can be the same at any school anyways. But yeah, I heard a lot of great things and a lot of things I was taking note on. I don't know, Dave, if you want to start us off, or you want anyone else to talk about, like, I don't know, anything you heard in your group about grades and.
No, we started to touch on grading, and Corinne was sharing some of her experiences, her school. Well, she in particular, and I guess some colleagues had started in that direction earlier, moved towards a standards-based grading. And I'm always interested in hearing what people's experience is with that, how it's working. And, George is right. I love that people get passionate about it, and that's a really good thing. So I kind of person that tends to look for, where is the center of this thing and what matters the most, what's really important. So I thought I'd just sort of first, let's see if we can find some common language, because I find I'm on the district grading committee in my own district. They resurrected it, I think, after a 5 or 6 year hiatus because the superintendent guidelines said they should, not because anybody really wants to do anything. But, people have, when you say standards-based grading, people actually have very, very, very different ideas about what that actually means. And those ideas can encompass everything from how we choose what we're going to assess, to how we assess it, to how we report what we find out from that assessment. And so, for instance, there's some people on the committee in the district that if you say standards-based grading, they say, oh yeah, that's when you grade using a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And grading using a 1, 2, 3, or 4 is one way to score students' work. It's one way to report out their
David,
achievement.
Do you want me to make you host by any chance? Like, do you have anything you want to share?
If you want to, you can.
I'll make you a host. So in case you want to pull up any documents and screen.
Okay.
So you're a host now.
All right, thanks. But 1, 2, 3, or 4 is not standards-based grading. It happens to be a mathematical way you choose to score their work, and then, depending on where your district's at. I happen to choose to score using a 1, 2, 3, or 4 for various reasons, that I can show you some things that feed that. But that's not standards-based grading. One other level of standards-based grading is where you identify the standards that you want kids to score on, and you only score their level of achievement on that standard. And when you go in that direction, that's fine, but then you have to not score other things that don't reflect their level of achievement on that particular standard. And then the ultimate expression of that is where on the final report that you share with parents and whatever else, then what you're actually reporting on is their level of achievement on different skill sets. So what skill sets do they actually have as a result of having been through your coursework? And what I find is there's a lot of, we do standards-based grading, and we give them a score based on their achievement of certain standards, and then we turn that into a grade and report out their grade. And that's because there's this ongoing myth that you have to give kids grades. You don't actually have to, but that might even be another discussion again. So depending on how much time, George, you think you want to take on this, we can open up the discussion, see what people are doing, and I'd be interested in hearing, what are you doing in your school? How's it working? To getting into some groups and talking about, what is the difference between the different systems? What kind of a blend are you? And how's that working for you? And then, the other thing I'm interested in doing is looking at, what are the foundational principles that we're using when we agree to some method of scoring kids. And I think that's another interesting discussion. So George, I'm not sure how much time you wanted to allocate here, and I don't want to overstep, but as you guys can probably tell, I can go on for 3 or 4 hours if you want, but we don't have that. So
Group 3, Heather's group, really brought up a lot of things about grading. I think a common things that I face, and I think a lot of the other groups talk about too, is new grading brings up new challenges, but also I think about the retake policy. And I had to really evaluate my retake policy in my school in Crystal Lake, Illinois. I had to totally reevaluate when I came to Wilmette, so my new school. I don't know. What is there anything that anyone want to share when they're in small groups? I mean, that Heather's group really brought up the new challenges and the retakes. So
I had shared, I'm in Maine, and Maine as a state 6 or 7 years ago now magically passed a law that said everybody will be standards-based grading and the high schools will start issuing standards-based proficiency diplomas. Woo, go do the things. And it's been an absolute and utter unmitigated disaster of catastrophic levels. The first senior class that was supposed to be awarded those diplomas graduated last spring or the spring before, I forget which now. And about March of that year, guidance counselors started reporting to the DOE that they were expecting their failure rates to exceed 70%. And so the state went, whoop, never mind, roll back that law. Because all they said was proficiency-based grading, standards-based diplomas, all standards, all students, go. You have 4 years, make it happen. And nobody could. And it was this absolute disastrous example of all the things not to do because nobody answered the questions that David talked about. Nobody defined what the standards were. Nobody defined how to grade. Nobody defined what proficiency meant. Nobody defined retake policies. Nobody talked about how to pull out habits of work as opposed to content knowledge, as opposed to any of those things. And the only success story that most of us, at least in my school, came out of it with was this belief that retakes can be successful if you have a system in place that requires students to have done the work to earn the retake. And so we allow students to turn in late work. We don't dock points directly for the lateness of the work. We really don't even put a lot of emphasis on homework. But if a kid bombs a formal evaluation of any sort and they want to take a retake, they need to show that they did all the work leading up to that summative assessment, or they can't retake it. And so we're still using that tool now. So, you know, if you just bombed a test, and we're kind of back to using words like tests and quizzes, but if you just bombed a test in my class and you want to have a chance to retake it, I need to see that you've gone back, come to extra help, done extra work, redone that assignment, done the 3 weeks worth of homework that you didn't do leading up to the test in the first place. And that is the one piece that's actually been successful.
Thanks for sharing, Heather.
Just for the fun of it, I actually posted the retake form that our school uses in Google Classroom. So if you go look, you'll see it there. I just put it there because I figured that retakes might come up as a discussion point. And again, I mean, Heather hit on what is sort of a central idea on retakes, and that is it shouldn't just be an arbitrary, you just have to come retake the test again. The goal is to expect the child to learn the material that was presented in the first place, and you can place that responsibility fairly on the student. And certainly, you know, raising scores and completing all assignments that led up to that assessment is certainly a reasonable basic expectation for a student that wants to do the retake. Keeping track of that might sound cumbersome, but actually you can put that burden on the student. And this form does that. It basically says, okay, take this home, tell us what you're going to do to learn the material, and get this signed by your teacher and a parent. And actually, I'm not even sure if they have to have it signed by a parent, but when you bring it back and demonstrate that you've done all that, no problem. We'll give you the retake. And honestly, at that point, I've sat with kids and basically said, okay, let me ask you some questions. I'll look at the test, see what they got wrong on the first one. I'll just ask them some questions. And if they got it, they don't even need to take the test again. You know, you've demonstrated that you've done it. That to me is the beauty of standards-based. If you've demonstrated you understand it, that's what we're trying to get to. And I can enter evidence of that into the grade book, and we're done and move on.
I think the nice part about standards-based is that I don't know if you even need the retake ticket. Like, I feel like a lot of times if you're constantly reassessing on those standards, you kind of have the retakes built in.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we were supposed to go, as part of the switch, our grading system, our online grading system was supposed to go to away from any sort of averaging system and towards something that only looked at the last 3 times a student had been assessed in a certain standard, and that was what was going to contribute to their final grade. And we could never logistically make that gel. And so in order to manipulate the grade book, literally, you wound up needing to go back in and alter numbers or remove assignments. And so it just sort of built this culture in of retakes. But I agree with Corinne. Ideally, it doesn't. Ideally, it could be something that simple.
Mathematically, there are ways to deal with that, but that's the point. Most districts don't want to invest in the tools that are necessary to actually, accommodate that kind of a learning style. And when you don't, you get into real trouble when you try and blend the two systems. My sort of watching suggests that most places that have gone to standards-based grading see exactly what Heather saw, and that is you saw a big decline in their actual, what you find out is their achievement level. And the thing that the mistake is saying to yourself, well, obviously there's a problem with standards-based grading, because what it really does is show us just how bad grade inflation is generally across the board. And I don't know what you guys are experiencing, but there's a huge amount of grade inflation in my school. And it's one that, the administration has not been willing to address. And, I bring it to their attention, other people have brought it to their attention, and they sort of tacitly know it, but they kind of stick their head in the sand around it. And it's, it's because they're being compared with other principals too. And it's, sort of a competition, and nobody wants to be on the bottom.
I think that's why colleges take grades with a grain of salt.
Yep.
I mean, there's no apples to apples with what you're doing in all the districts everywhere. So why do we grade?
No, and I agree with you. Taking it with a grain of salt. Although my kids go into private schools, and they, some teachers use grades literally as a weapon. They're very vindictive about it. And my policy in my classroom is simple. You can take any grade, you can retake any test at any time for 100%, at 100% score. So you're not going to lose out. However, there's a form that you have to fill out. You have to tell me what you did wrong the first time. Your parents have to sign it. Tell me what you've set in place in order to succeed the next time. So I don't care if you ended up with an 89 and you wanted to get 100. Well, go for it. You're good to go. Anybody can do it.
Do you make a completely different assessment though?
Yes, I do.
I do too, but I know some people who don't. They just have them retake the same test. I'm like,
well, that's kind of defeating the purpose, right?
Exactly. I agree.
I'm not sure that
one last thing is that but for my kids, I've told them, you have to know everything. So I can choose any question from anywhere at any time. So it's not like only on this unit. It's I'm going to throw the book at you.
So I think you want to be careful about making a blanket statement that giving them the same test is defeating
sorry.
the purpose. No. Don't apologize, because this is a common thing. And this is where, and each of us have different subjects, and depending on what your subject is and how you go about that assessment. So if the original assessment involved an awful lot of constructed response material, then sometimes you can give them that same test again, because they're having to go through the thinking process to construct their answers anyway. It's a very different matter if it's a chemistry test where they're balancing equations or something like that. But again, in that case, it's not always so difficult to come up with a second way or a second method of assessment. So
yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing, because my kids, I'll literally hand them their test back. I've recorded their score. They have until a certain date to bring it back to me with corrections, but they can't look the corrections up. They have to be able to think it out. They have to be able,
Yep.
And I can do that because the way that we're evaluating them is that they can't look it up. Like either you're going to learn how to do it to fix the test, or you're not going to be able to do it.
So what do you mean? When you give it back to them, how do you know they're not looking it up?
Because they have to, all of the questions require them to follow a thought process. So it's not recall tests.
So if I could add on, piggyback onto what Heather is talking about. So you give them back their test, but instead of just saying, go make corrections to it, you say, okay, I need you to, for each of the problems that you had difficulty with, you need to write out, why did you get this wrong, or why did you have difficulty with it? What is it you didn't know? What do you know now? And what would be a better answer to it? And
that's exactly what I do. My students call them super corrections, and they hate it. They hate it with a violent passion because it's hard. But that's how I avoid giving and writing multiple tests.
Honestly, my kids might find that might be a better way for me to be handling my kids' tests, because if they can't figure the process out, which is why they couldn't get the answer right to begin with, and they're not getting it, at least I know they've learned where they screwed up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which I think would probably be a better value to them.
Yeah. It's really beneficial because it becomes, for the kids and the ones that do it a lot, start to notice patterns in their own thinkings. So they notice that I always get questions wrong that involve me to remember formulas, or I always get questions wrong that require that I use vocabulary correctly. And then they start to identify the areas in their own study skills that they're struggling with the most. And so for a lot of the weakest students, it's actually cumulatively really helpful, because not only have they learned some science by the end of the year, but they can walk into their next year's classes going, I really need to focus on vocabulary because that's hard for me.
You know, what you're talking about is getting to that metacognitive level, or for those of you that are doing the DOK thing, the depth of knowledge, you know, that kind of work is level 4 work. It's generally pushing the kids to a higher level of reasoning and thinking than what's required of them to have done the assessment in the first place. And that kind of stuff tends to stick with them in terms of learning. So that once they can kind of go through and say, well, I know why I got all these wrong, the de facto is they actually have more ability with it than they might have had they done them right in the first place anyway. So, you know, why should we have a problem saying, okay, yeah, you got this standard, you're good.
All right. I don't know how you're feeling, David. I know it's top of the hour, maybe. I think this was a good talk, and I appreciate people keeping an open mind. If you guys want to take a quick, we'll start back at 10 after, and we'll move our focus to laying the foundations of academically productive talk article.
Cool.
So if you guys are ready, 10 after, we'll start back. So appreciate what everyone brought to the discussion.
Cool. George, I'm going to turn it back over to you for leader.
Thank you. Stephanie, are you feeling all right about the graduate credits? Like, do you need like? Do we, I don't know. I don't know if David or I post the instructions not yet for it.
Yeah, so, well, you sent the registration directions.
Probably need me. Do I need to send like a little bit more guidance out of the assignment, or are you okay?
Probably on the assignment, you had mentioned putting together some sort of write-up of how to modelize a lesson or a unit.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'll try to. I guess David and I will try to put it. It won't be due next week.
Okay.
Pacific U. Honestly, when we run summer workshops, people turn things in months later.
Oh, geez.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll give it like we end next week. That's the first week or the second week. Maybe end of make it like maybe try and make it due before the end of March before we send everything.
Oh, okay, for sure. Yeah.
And then I'll talk to Bill to make sure it's okay. So like you can get it done. Maybe is your spring break the first week or sometime in March or is it in April?
I believe it's the first week of April, but it's going to be better for me to get it done sooner
Before
than
break.
later,
Okay.
because I've got 2 more classes
Me
I'm
too. Yeah.
You know,
George, I liked what you sent me to just kind of help me organize my thoughts. And if you want, I can forward that to Stephanie too. If
Yeah,
that,
that'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking like we don't want anything like we want something that's practical that you'll use in your classroom. So yeah, that'd be great. I'll try to. I guess I'll send it in the email too to everybody.
Okay, that'd be
So,
awesome.
and then maybe we'll just try to get it all done so David and I have them looked over and graded. I mean, there's not really a deadline until like May or June, but we want to get it done sooner. We'll try to. How about we'll just aim to get it done for the end of February. What do you think? Last day of February? Is that too soon? Today's the 5th. Is 2 weeks after the course. Is that enough time for you guys?
that'll be my goal.
Yeah, mine too.
All right, we'll get it done. All right, we'll make the deadline then. I'll put it in the email. Well, David and I will put it in the email or
Okay.
explicit instructions.
So you're gonna send it out. I don't need to forward it to Stephanie.
I should probably send out. I think I think there's 2 other people that said they're taking in the class, or 2 other people are taking for 1 credit, right?
I'm doing it for 3.
Okay. So
Just do it for PDPs.
okay.
Is that what you do? Could you just get professional development?
You can take like right now. You don't have to do anything. You can take this class for 1 graduate credit if you're willing to pay the fee. And if
Okay.
you're going for 3, we just have you write a brief unit plan that you currently use with your students.
Because I think I put 1 just because.
Yeah, then you don't have to do anything. You're good.
Okay, but what if you did nothing? Like, what do you get? Anything?
You don't do as long as you're attending all 5 weeks, you can pay and get 1 graduate credit.
Okay,
That's what I'm doing.
sounds good.
Yeah.
We're doing stuff. No.
Well, I've already got intro to modeling and then the workshop from Wheaton. So it's like,
I took a green chemistry class. It was great.
That's all right. Anyways, yeah, we'll send that out in the email.
So are you anticipating the plan be like a couple pages or?
Yeah, if you look at a couple pages like so. I'm looking for like a synopsis, like, hey, like what's the unit, like what's the storyline, like the AMTA notes, like, the first page, like they usually have a paragraph, like what's the story, like what's the model we're building.
Okay.
The paragraph explaining that, or maybe like I don't want to set it a certain number, probably at least half a page. And then I'll show you this cheat sheet I made. Like we don't need you to type long teacher notes, but I always make cheat sheets for units. Like, and I'll show you an example of mine, like name of activity, what tool supplies you would need, and what's the purpose, like how does this tie in the storyline, just what's the instructional objective. And then if you can just share your materials that you use, like handouts, that's all we would need.
Okay, so you're talking about 1 activity?
Either a unit or a subunit.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you're working through it, I know George set a deadline and, we just want to get it off everybody's plate. But if you're running into any kind of issues or you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to contact either one of us and let us assist you working through it. Let's, make this as productive and valuable to you as possible and as least onerous as possible.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
Pacific
you.
U is really lenient, so that's.
So if it happens to be about a week after February,
Not a problem.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. 'Cause-
Yeah. And we'll email the people that we have taken it for graduate credit. We'll be contacting you on the status of it.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
So I think right now we're just kind of focused on getting through all. We're assigning a lot of reads. I think they're good, but that's where I really want everyone's focus right now, because I know everyone's busy with schedules and everything. So anyways, I'm gonna share my screen again. If you guys have the articles out, laying foundations for academically productive talk. Like I said, it's a follow-up article to the Talk Science primer. I'll post that in Google Classroom. I think half the people said they didn't read it. This is like a follow-up to it. I think the Talk Science primer is really good also. But we don't plan on reading it throughout the course. Half the people have read it. But kind of want to keep the whiteboards, set up a whiteboard when you get into groups. Kind of want, if you guys can see my screen, I'm pulling it up. You guys can do like a plus delta. Can you guys see this plus delta?
Not yet.
Mine's frozen.
Yeah, mine too.
Yep.
In a great way.
It's pretty cool
mine's
looking, actually.
frozen.
Yeah.
With distance learning guiding questions disappearing.
All right, not working. Okay, so I guess I'm not really sharing. Can you see a Google Doc up now?
Yeah.
All right, it's weird, but you can't see. Oh, I know, because I'm not actually. Hang on, I'm doing it wrong. All right, can you see? Yeah, you can see this now.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can set up your whiteboards like this, plus like anything from the article. Like I noticed it brought up things. I wish I would have had this article years ago when I first started modeling. I like how the second half of the article talked about turn-taking strategies for management. How do you know if you're having equitable discussions? And then the common struggles. Yeah, I don't know, plus positives, like, hey, like, I don't know if anything from this article, like, hey, I'm already doing, these are strategies I'm doing, or things that are working well. And then delta, is there anything, moving it back to, is there anything here from this article you think that you can use implementing your classroom right away, like things that help you? So positive things from the article, things that you know you do already, you think you're doing well, and delta. Is there anything from this article you think that can help you with that? We'll put you guys in the breakout rooms. I'll kind of keep the discussions going, and then, yeah. So, actually, recreate. All right. Good luck, everybody. Plus delta.
I've taken almost a whole notebook full of notes this time, through this 4 weeks we've been together.
Awesome. That's so cool. I kind of wish I had done a notebook. I kind of wrote it on a sticky note here and then put it on another piece of paper here. And like, I have like 10 papers that I wrote stuff, but I don't have any of them in front of me.
That's my life. I hear you.
Yeah, I always go back to the articles. I feel like I check my annotations and add stuff in there. I don't know. Everyone has their own strategy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Pacific U will not be looking for organization. So
I need to take that executive functioning class that the other Heather was talking about earlier. Clearly,
Good. I tell you what, I just did a 1-hour lecture for parents online, and it was one of the best attended things. And then I teach it on OutSchool. It's like it's very popular topic.
Yeah.
What, executive function?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to teach, so I'm so thrilled that your school has that as a focus.
Well, because and here's the thing, it is hard to teach. You
Mhm.
can't teach it. You have to actually integrate it into what you're doing.
Right. It can't be my school every once in a while says things like, go have a 15-minute seminar on executive function. And we're like,
right.
So much no.
No, I don't think we will.
Yeah, if we can get people to go do their duties, we're good.
Yeah, that would be enough.
all right, if you guys maybe we'll debrief. I'll just put the whiteboards up, kind of summarize what we saw and anything we really took away from the article, and then we'll break. And we got one more quick activity, try to end early again tonight, like usual. Positives, deltas. I don't know. What I saw a lot with the people is like the running discussions, the mystery of the unknown. I think they came up in the first group with Heather's group. Is like when you walk into a discussion, especially the first time, it's like, how do you facilitate it? What are misconceptions? I think a lot of the whiteboards, if I'm not mistaken, showed misconceptions. Let me see. Other one. I'm trying to switch off. So like our first whiteboard, yeah, think about discussions ahead of time.
Yeah, we had something like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this group's whiteboard, did you guys find things? I think there's some things from the article I would draw for it, but did you guys find anything that you would like, hey, like I think things from the article that will help you?
We kind of talked about some of the different strategies they had in there for like, what was I gonna say? Oh, we talked about like the dueling whiteboards and the different ways to present the info. But for this Delta side, we mostly were thinking about different things that we had to keep in mind when we're, planning for our lessons and discussions and that kind of thing. Sometimes we're thinking about the questions ahead of time for somewhat. And, a lot of times it helps to understand what the kids have like misconception wise before we go into the discussion. I don't know if my group wants to add to that.
No, I think that was the gist of it. Yeah.
Well, you added that part about not every child needing to talk, like respect the silent ones. They're still learning, they're just processing maybe. Right. I forget what you wrote exactly, but something about the silent participants.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you haven't read, like I said, I keep referencing a talk science primer, but you're not sure what's going to happen in misconceptions, especially first time with units or activities, but having the talk moves ready and knowing what do I got to get out of this discussion. In the first year, it's easier said than done because you're still learning the storyline in the curriculum. Like, why are things sequenced like that?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's like once you get done with the unit and the assessment's over, you're like, oh, that's why we did this activity. And this is why. And then you know how you can make it better the next time around.
Yeah.
So
has anybody else gone through a curriculum, looked at the order of events, said, oh, that's a dumb way to do it. I should switch that around. And then after you got through it, realized, okay, now I know why they did it that way. And that was a smart thing to do.
Right.
Yeah. We also kind of talked about that challenge of not telling the kids when they're right. That's the next bullet point.
Oh,
there.
that's so hard.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
Right.
or letting it go when they're wrong, you know, like
Right.
letting them leave class with a complete misconception.
Yeah.
That's hard.
When do you know? And that the key thing is, how are you going to address it? Is it going to come up in future activities? Which again, that's tough the first year because you're not sure. You're still learning the storyline. Like, is it going to get addressed later, or what kind of questions can I ask to get them to alleviate that discussion, or to alleviate that problem?
So far, I have only had it happen twice, and I happened to know that we were going to address it further down the line, so it didn't invoke complete panic. But I know the day is coming.
It's I hate that feeling more that like they're leaving with a wrong idea, and so that's really hard. But at least if you know it, for me, it's you've made the decision in advance of, are you going to address it or are you going to let it sit?
Well, are they going to tell their parents?
Right, and so I'm teaching conceptual physics, and I have a kid whose father is a physicist.
Oh God.
So thankfully he's my co-coach in Science Olympiad, so he understands, he gets it, but I still get a little like. So this was our board, and actually a lot of what we discussed is very similar to the last board that was up on the Delta side. It's not written as much there, but as I was reading it, I was like, oh, we had all of those same issues.
Yeah, very similar. Kids jumping ahead, yeah.
Well, the kids jumping ahead was when you have something up on the board, like the essential question goes up on the board, and it becomes, oh, I know that already.
Mm-hmm.
We have this answer already. We don't need to do this unit.
I've never had that, but okay.
Well, one student knows and kind of takes over, and then the other ones can't explain their board because the one kid monopolized it.
Or even if they know the answer, do they really know the answer?
Right. Do they know why or anything? Yeah.
And that's where, and I call issues at my new school, we'll call them like Wilmette problems. Like, and that's an issue where kids come in, they say they already know it. The only way I solved it is my second year is that I pre-assess them before. Like I give them and I know like timing, like in my old school, like just doing new curriculum, I don't know if it's feasible or not. I always give the kids a pre-test, and then before the kids always tank the pre-assessment. So it's like they get the score back, but they don't know what they got right or got wrong. But then they see that they didn't do well on the pre-assessment. So I don't let them. I try. That's the only way I've been able to pull that away from them. They can't use that excuse.
Or they know the quick answer, but they don't understand the process behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
So like my weather test is 8 multiple choice, but with 8 multiple choice, they have to explain their reasoning. So they might get half of them right, but then the explanation, there's a rubric. It's a 4, 3, 2, 1. Their reasoning is always, it's not. They can't reason. I think I had one kid, but again, this kid is 99 percentile in math and reading. So I don't know. His parents work at Northwestern, so yeah. Anyways, yeah, let's go to the last whiteboard. And David, this is yours. David's group.
Yep.
Let's take a look at both sides. Class consensus, that's huge.
We spent a lot of time talking about what's in purple at the top about students listening to one another, and that being difficult for at least a couple of us. And so then a lot of what we talked about is just about how to either help them listen to one another or get them engaged. So some of the ideas are in blue. Dave said that he uses an exit ticket that he pre-prepares, and so then even if students aren't engaged in the discussion, they look like they're not participating, they have to write out what they now know, or using a class consensus in the notebook. George talked about the Google Doc last time, model so far. I think one of my things I was really convicted of when I was reading the article was I know some students have checked out and they've given up on themselves, and I've maybe given up on them too. I mean, maybe I don't personally, but in a discussion, I'm like, I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to call you out. So then in green, we gave some ideas about that. Either to warn them in advance, you're going to call on them, tell them what the question is. Sometimes I just ask them to report. I'm just like, tell us what your group said, you know? And then David had this idea about the participation points, about filling out a form about what they said and how they participated, and then maybe just collect that 4 times a quarter, or they have to turn it in 4 times a quarter in order to get their participation points, which I like that idea because I've always been like, participation points have always been kind of vague to me. Like, I always hated them myself. Like, oh yeah, I have something to say even though I don't really, but I need to get those points, you know?
Too much guilt.
They don't have to participate every single time, but at least 4 times in order to get the grade. And then Stephanie, were you the one that talked about the fist to 5?
Yeah, just to see where they are with their understanding. And then I kind of mentioned that if a kid was like at a 2 or a 3, I might ask a 4 or a 5 to reiterate what we talked about, what the class consensus is. And typically they can do that if they're honest with their answer. But if they're just throwing up a 5 just to like lay off me, I'm a 5, even though I don't understand it, and I call on them to reiterate, sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I don't really know it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of another way to assess, I guess.
All right. I'm going to share one thing. I've been waiting, and it's going to take me a second. I just got to get on my... Can you guys see my... Oh, no, I'm not screen sharing yet. Sorry. There we go. So this is an app, and it's called Equity Maps. And my students, I introduced it, I think, back in January. And basically what it does is you could program your class. So I'll take my 9th hour. I program my kids, and then you can move the people around to where you want. So this is like if they're in a whiteboard discussion, this is where they're sitting. If I hit the play button, if a student's talking, it'll record them. It'll take a check mark for when they talked and how long they're talking. And it's tracking the discussion. Like if other kids talk, you click on them. If I talk, I do there's a teacher talk button up top, like asking a question. Maybe there's a turn and talk to your group. I'll do like a pair share. And then I'll go back to like another student talk. So I really like, because it ties back the discussion, like kids talking to each other, it tracks the discourse. And then the cool thing is when I hit finish meeting, it brings up all these analytics that's really cool, like group analytics. It tells you how many people talked and how long. So like it'll track like, hey, you talked for this percentage time, this time, times, amount of times, and then the time spoken. So it tracks how long people spoke for. And I always talk about like, hey, like we want to have a good discussion, and a good discussion means it even like gives levels of participation in the top right. This is an app you can find on the App Store, although it's $10. So I don't know. I bought it, but it gives you like a percentage of like, hey, like is this a good discussion or not? It's like an equation. Like I don't think like my best so far is a low level of participation, like 50%. But I think it's really hard to get the medium, high, and widely inclusive, where you're getting everyone to talk for an equal amount of time. Yeah. But it sets the standard.
Who defines who's talking at the time? Who do you do that, or does it do?
So I have to I have to program the kids in. It took me each class probably took me 10 minutes to program the names and put them on this chart. Probably not even 10 minutes. And then it has to be run manually. So I can't multitask. So I usually have like a paraprofessional or not best practice, but I have a student usually track this.
So then to measure the amount of time, is it like if you click on Kevin, does it just assume that as long until you click on somebody else, it's Kevin?
As long as it's flashing on Kevin, it's that. But if you do like a turn and talk, then it'll stop the timer. If you have chaos where, there's a bunch of kids talking, then it stops the timer on that specific student and times for that, or silence.
Oh, that's cool.
So it uses the microphone?
It doesn't. You're just literally, you can use the microphone on there to record the discussion.
Like, how does it know when there's chaos? That's, I guess.
You have to have someone running this on an iPad manually. Someone's actually clicking on the
whole time, yeah.
someone
clicks chaos.
Yes, button.
And what's it called?
It's called Equity Maps.
And then George, do you use this? Do you show the students? This is what our last discussion looked like?
I first introduced the students this, and I put this up on. I don't have it screenplay, like I don't have it going during the discussion because it'll be too distracting. It almost demands. So it actually shows the discussions. I'll just pick a random class, 6th hour. They like almost demand now who talked and how long. Silence for 12 seconds. I don't know what. Yeah. So they almost demand, they want to know, like, was this a good discussion or not?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, and that, they kind of, I don't know, it puts it visually for them. Because I always talk to them, like, what a good discussion is. But I feel like this makes it visual for them. Because then especially they see the map. And, like, the more lines, we see the discourse going from students to students and not me talking. Like, they see that. And the kids, I don't know, they really like seeing this. Like, they really like seeing, I don't know, how it all tracks and laid out.
So could you have class contests with
Who has a better discussion?
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, some students, the student that I picked to run this, sometimes some students do a better job at other times.
Yeah, you'd have to have an adult probably if you're doing a class contest.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see what your participation rate would be if you set up your classes to have contests.
So a question. So do your kids sit in that square as you have there?
Yeah, they're circled up in the classroom. I'm trying to see. Let me see on my phone if I have a picture. I don't know. My classroom, they get in a big circle.
Oh, so they're in that sort of square. Because I divide mine so I have mine in a sort of a circle, 3/4 circle in groups of 3 going in a 3/4 circle. So I know some other teachers who have this, and I've always kind of wondered.
So is this assigned seating, George? Like they always sit in these places, or can you move them around?
I use another app for my grouping. And again, this isn't, I don't think it's best practice. This one's only $1. This one's only $1. Let me get off of AirPlay on this one. And then let me find my phone. As soon as they see my phone's out, they know it's new. They know it's new seating. So,
Wow.
But so you use this other app to actually do assigned seating for the whiteboard discussions?
For their lab groups.
Right. So I have them in lab groups, but then when I have them get into the circle for the whiteboard meetings, they aren't necessarily where I would put them. They're kind of like approximate. But so for this app, do you have to have them like in a certain place and know that ahead of time where they're going to sit?
Yeah, you have to program their names, and then every time you change seats, you got to move them.
Okay, got it. All right.
That's a pain. I got to redo mine for tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, as long as you just click on the person's name, though, it just show that they're talking, right? Yeah. Even though it might not be their partner they're talking to, if you change the seating arrangement.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just for my students to know, so they can quickly click on the kid who's talking. So try to make it as accurate as possible.
That makes sense. Yeah.
This Shake app, it's $1.
Yeah.
Some students have numbers, which I'm glad no one's caught on. They're like a 1, 2, and a 3. I rigged it. Like I tell them, like, oh, it's random, but really, I can rig it so I don't want those kids to sit by each other. This is what we do. And then it also, if you want guys, my students, I don't know, you can have it so guys are boys with boys, girls with girls. So, yeah, that's how I do it. And you can even go into each kid and program you can rank them on like their behavior or their academic ability. And then I always like, it's just for me, just because the kids always want everything fair, and randomized is the only way to go. And then I switch every 2 weeks.
Oh, every
when
2 weeks.
When they complain about their lab groups, I'm like, you got 2 weeks, you got to hang in there.
Yeah, I switch them pretty quick too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyone else have anything they want to share from the article? I thought there was some good stuff in there. It makes you feel better that I'm not the only one with some of these struggles in there that I encountered. So,
yeah. That's the truth.
I used David's risky business or risky behavior, risky business. There's been a commercial, whatever. Risky behavior. That was you, right? The respectful, interested, supportive kind.
Yep.
We talked about that before, their discussion, which was great. Thank you.
And how did it go well?
Yeah, they're pretty respectful anyway, but to always remind them and to say you're going to have risky behavior, it makes it fun. So
yeah, cool. All right, break, George.
Yeah, you guys want to? How about we'll start back up at 8:15. We got one more quick activity, and then we'll end earlier. So, if you guys can, if you can take that article, if you have it in front of you, if you just want to flip to page 39, so we start back up at 8:15, or 15 quarter past the hour, we'll be ready to go. We're going to use that page for the final activity. So, good. All right, see you guys back in a couple minutes. All right, I think we got everybody back, almost everybody back. I'm gonna start us off with our last activity. And if you're looking at Google Classroom, if you guys can open up a tab with Google Classroom, I always think of as like start doing modeling is like one thing that I really struggle with is like, I still had these great labs and I still want to use them with modeling instruction. So page 39, selecting, setting up a task or theorizable situation. I like how it talks about, it's like, hey, here's some, actually, is it page 30?
Yep, 39.
39, yeah. How do you take an activity and put it into this format? Like, how do you get it to, how it gets modelized is the term that we have. So I like these questions it asks. And I should have actually had people like maybe bring like their own traditional labs that they would almost like modelize, but I have 5 different labs. One's changing sugar, physical chemical changes, moving bodies. That's like a forces in motion lab. Ice cube melting, chemistry, thermal energy transfer, energy balancing, energy, natural selection. Oh, I forgot about life science. I'm sorry. Well, natural selection. I have some life science there. I kind of just want to put people into groups and either look at the lab, like energy bound, like actually this, yeah. So these are like labs that I used back in when I taught in Arizona way back. And actually when I was re-downloading these tonight, pulling them off my Google Drive, I haven't actually used these labs or even actually opened up these labs since probably like 2009, 2010. But kind of brings back good memories of Arizona. But I just want to think it's like, this is a traditional lab. And it's just thinking like, how can we like modelize this, like any of these labs? So I kind of want to put people into groups. I don't know. Is anyone really like, just to expedite the situation, maybe I'll just put people into random groups and you just want to pick a lab. And then you guys can just prep a whiteboard on how would you modelize this and use the questions on page 39 to guide your instruction. That's okay. I'll just put you guys, so if anyone, like it's a middle school labs. So is that feasible? I don't know. I was going to have people pick a certain lab, but I think it's just a speed thing in the process of speeding up time and using page 39. That's okay with you guys.
You want to just number the labs and then whatever our breakout room is, we'll use that lab.
That's great. Yeah, I can, I'll make changing. Yeah, we'll do 3. Well, I guess we'll just go back to 3 rooms. How about we'll just make 3 rooms and you pick the lab, and if multiple groups are using the same lab, then we'll I'll just, well, it's okay. I think as long as it's not
right.
in the same lab, it's fine.
You can compare how you did it.
Yep, there you go.
Did you?
All right. So yeah, just go on Google Classroom and then pick a lab, and just, if you guys can, just be referencing 39. Like, how would you modelize? Like, how would you change it? So.
Heather, what are you interested in doing?
Which Heather?
Oh, well, you're both there. Huh?
I don't know if we're in.
Oh, there we go. Breakout room. Okay.
Good luck, everybody.
Hi. The only one here.
Welcome back. We'll wrap this up. I did not anticipate it going this late tonight, but
Oh, you had to know that would take a while. That
yeah,
could
that's
take
why
us
I was
a
like,
little
how
time.
do we speed this up as quickly as possible?
We're all overachievers too.
What are you eating, Dave?
Peanut butter filled pretzels.
Oh, I had peanut butter filled crackers.
They're my favorite.
I know. I just took the whole box up here in my room, so my kids because they found them today.
No good.
Maybe just to do a quick just to do a quick because we're running short on time. Just maybe how did you tackle the problem?
So this is our groups, and very quickly we just sort of looked at decided what was the essential question. What's the idea we want to get across? How a population responds to an environmental change, and then sort of just simplified down the storyline to the idea that, well, we've got to create some kind of a phenomena, and best way to do that is with one of the many available simulations. We talked about a number of different simulations we've used. After doing the simulation, take the data, create a graph, and then have the kids start building the model and using a storyboard structure to have them explain what happened over time as to the different generations, engage them in a discourse, and then hopefully they arrive at a pretty good description of what the phenomena that was happening, and then give them the word natural selection.
I think, I like this, and I like how taking the lab and making it more open-ended and building upon the story.
Yeah, that lab just had too many pages of stuff, and we pretty much decided we needed a smaller lab, more focused on one task and the data for that one task.
How many students would you have that would see like 5-6 pages of it and just check out?
Yep.
Every single one.
Exactly.
Keep it simple. All right, thank you. Let's I'll go to the next group. Yeah. I think this is Heather's group. You guys can
Both Heathers. It was Heather squared.
There's the energy.
Right. So we read through the lab and you could tell that we're all modeling because we were all like, what? So we were like, the first thing we needed to do is throw out all of the background knowledge, which didn't make it onto this screen. Our goal there would be introducing elastic energy or discovering multiple types of energy exist, or introducing the idea of work. And for us, we thought that would be better done by giving them 3 to 5 different objects, some that require some input, like the poppers required you to like do something to it to increase that elastic energy. And some that didn't, and take away the cardboard and the carpet and really have them focus on how these things are behaving. So you're kind of taking out all of these extra confusing factors, you know what I mean? We would throw out all the questions at the end, and we would start off with asking them, okay, so what can you measure? What can you do with these? What can we measure? And we were on that track with all of the, like, what are we going to ask them at the beginning? What can we learn about energy here?
Yeah, I like it. I think the other group also did the natural selection. Anything you guys want to add on to what these two groups did, or any other problems, or anything you guys that you guys had?
I think with the natural selection lab, a lot of it we just said was like take away like the spoon-fed information and like let kids draw their own conclusions. You know, that was kind of like we talked a lot about a lot of the ways we could do that, but I think that was kind of like the main point that we discussed.
Yeah, I'm glad that people take that away, and that's what, more open-ended. And then the labs are building on misconception and building models, and that's what we're trying to do. A lot of these labs, I just took the traditional labs I still like doing. I just went with this generic, generic lab where what can we measure? We list them. I started like, do the lab, have the demonstration up front. Then what's our guiding question? Like, what are we trying to solve in this? Variables, independent controls. I skipped the procedures. Not good. I only do procedures like when they do lab reports 2 or 3 times a year with middle school. I used to, when I first took the high school modeling workshops and then tried using them in the middle school, I had them do these lab reports and it's impossible. Like I was losing my mind with all the grading and looking over stuff. I only do that 2 or 3 times a year and they always back up to break. So I got time to grade them. Data table, we literally, they're setting up a data table any sort of way. Graph it. The analysis questions, they usually come up in the whiteboard discussion. We usually journal it afterwards. So this is just a generic paper. And like you said, like kids look at this and aren't overwhelmed then. Like they do it because like instead of giving them those packets, I think as soon as I give them a packet, they check out. So, and I think this is higher order, less work, but it's higher order thinking. They have to identify the independent. I think that's like the biggest thing. If I can give my middle school kids, hand them off to high school, is identifying these variables.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't make it simplifying it, but make it not simplify. I don't know. Well, yeah.
So George, can you just explain like what you would give them before you gave them this sheet? So what kind of information do they have about what they're supposed to be doing?
Like, for instance, maybe I can just give an example of a lab. Like the one group did the energy lab, like bouncing different bouncy balls and measuring how high they are. We're getting into energy transfer types of energy. So like first thing I do is drop the ball up front and one kid is airplaying this worksheet and all the other kids have it up. We're literally jotting down what can we measure there? Just totally non-judgmental, like, hey, what can we measure? They're listing them. And then we think of like, what kind of relationship, like what's an important question that we can draw? Is like, what's affecting, what's our guiding question would be like, how does the bounce height affect how high the ball is going to bounce? That might be the guiding question or purpose. Or how do using different balls affect how high it's going to bounce? And then from the independent, dependent controls, we look at what we can measure and we highlight up there, what's our independent, what's our dependent, and then everything else should fall into the control variable. Then we talk about data, how many different sets should we take, how many trials should we do, average, then we graph. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yes, that helps. Thank you.
It's just a generic approach and the kids get used to it. Like, yeah. And I make sure the kids are writing this down because if they're not in my 7th, 8th graders, if they're not writing this down, like they're going to get off task really fast.
So then are they all do you decide together what you're going to do or can they choose different things?
We might have, ideally, I like to have a couple groups do different things. Like one group's independent variable might be, well, they're all going to change like the bounce. Well, they might do, how do we say it?
Height or different balls or different,
Yeah, like they might change. Groups might have a different ball that they're dropping. But ideally, I think like that energy bounce lab where you bounce a ball and see how high it goes. Almost all of them, their independent is the drop height. The dependent is how high it bounces back. But they could test different balls then.
Okay.
The only thing I really want to get out of this is like when people talk about like, I don't know, if you're an NGSS state, is like a lot of people like when they like just like a lot of districts I worked in, like they didn't have enough money to buy curriculums. Like, oh, you can just use your old stuff and it should fall right in line. And I always think like if you're using traditional curriculum that scripted things, I don't think it elicits good discussions because it's so scripted that when the kids circle up, they don't even have much to talk about.
Right.
So you got to keep it more open-ended like this. And all those phrases and all those vocabulary terms they have in the background, that just comes up organically in the discussion. Mm-hmm. So
I also like that you don't have a data table drawn and they have to figure out how to make one. What data table is going to fit the data we're collecting? Because they have a hard time with that, I find in my class.
Mm-hmm. And then they think there has to be a right way how to set up the data table.
Exactly.
It's like, can you just make sense of the data table?
Exactly.
So
you don't even need to have it be a table, just write stuff down.
Yeah. Just making sure the independent's going on the x-axis and dependent's going on the y, vertical and horizontal axis. Yeah, it's so I don't know. We went late tonight. I don't know. One last week. If you guys can read the next 2 chapters, the next 2 hacks, and then I got a short article to read. And then we should end early next week. We definitely will end earlier next week so. Everything all right? Everyone got any questions or anything David and I can answer?
Can you put this generic lab report on the Google Classroom, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. See you.
Thank you.
You guys have a good night.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey.